Welcome to the Scam Assassin. Right, today I'm gonna show you a little thing on LinkedIn. I'm actually writing to LinkedIn now to tell them what lazy pieces of shit scam facilitators that they are. I've already mentioned scam facilitators in a video about a year ago when I was back in Colorado. I'm in London right now. So scam facilitators, why do I say that? The reason why I say that is because YouTube, LinkedIn, Instagram, all the major players, every one of them, they actively, it's not like we're turning a blind eye, they actively facilitate scammers. And by that what I mean is, when the public do their job for them, these companies that boast massive profits and don't bother to even hire one person to handle fraud, and I mean that, not even one person, because you'd expect in 1 year, over a year ago I've reported a scammer to Google, to YouTube. Nothing. That means not even one person's doing the job, right? You wouldn't have a year backlog. So the latest one is actually Roger Ver. It's a Roger Ver supposed to be person. If you look in the profile here, this is common as muck. This guy's been writing to me about a company that I'm an advisor for. He's saying that he wants to be an advisor. Seems pretty real. A couple of little red herrings here. Red alarms. Red alerts. There's the fact that he puts an email. It looks like a copy of another profile that on his own website, rogerver.com, it leads to this profile here that I'm a second connection to, which is not a first level connection to. It looks like an exact clone of this. I think the actual photo's changed recently too, and he's updated the photo on the other one as well. So it is a carbon copy. It could just be a secondary account for all I know. But why wouldn't he list it? Why would this person be contacting me and effectively, whether he's well spoken or not, and seems to know his stuff in crypto? He also gets it's also like he got a very big ego and gets offended very easy. It's like he's really trying to be the guy. It could be him. I just don't think it is. I think I smell a rat here, and I know that we cannot trust any social media company. They are your enemy. They're the creators of wars. They are the creators of future wars. I said at least 10 years ago now that the trending algorithms would result in society that was diametrically opposed when it came to opinion. So instead of having small arguments, you'd be having arguments that lead to fights, arguments that lead to war. It's already happening, right? So these companies have become the scourge of our society. How do you fix it? I'm one for letting the market regulate itself. The thing is, these are not open market things. These are protected market companies. For example, Facebook is protected by government because it furnishes the government with a lot of information that it requires. Your privacy doesn't mean jack shit. What matters is their profits and the government's ability to harvest information that it wants. That's it. That's the reason why they will be given preferential treatment. Why, if the government has any say in it, if the governments around the world have any say in it, they will try to push your company aside if you're a competitor, to whether it be by legislation or whatever else. It's the same old story. It will never change. This is how business. It's the disgusting relationship between governments and corporations, right? Will never change unless we hold them to task and hold them to account. That's effectively a revolution. So bringing it back to this again, I actually wrote to LinkedIn about this particular profile a few weeks ago before we started speaking a lot. It says here, see connections, 500,000. You go to the connections and 17 results. Only because my friend's actually added himself here, and so is another guy from my company. So he actually had less than that. But yet, even though it only shows these few people, when you go into showing all people, where was it again? Oh, bollocks. There we go, first, second, third. I can apply. It shows 600,000. I don't know why. You go to my profile, I think I've got something like 7,000 something on there, and it just shows them all. It doesn't. You don't have to bury to find out. So it's just a bit strange. It could be real. The fact that you go onto his own website and it says it's another profile, it means that, well, it most likely is fake. And if it is fake, it means that I'm not the only person who's reported this person, but the fact that I already have reported this person, they've done fuck all, means that LinkedIn does not give a shit whether you get ripped off or not. It doesn't care whether it falsifies your identity and allows someone to falsify your identity in order to rip some poor bastard off. This is why all of these things you need to look, like for example, LinkedIn, there's another one called doc.io. Move to doc.io, support these other companies. Move from Facebook into minds.com and into SoMe and other platforms, decentralized platforms. Understand that scammers will still exist on a decentralized platform, because they will, because it'll be even more difficult. Like Telegram, they don't apply any technology to stop scammers, and therefore scammers are rife on Telegram. But at least you know what you're getting. You're not being sold a false promise of a corporation that values its users and blah 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 blah. The lie, the corporate lie. At least we all know, whoever you meet here, take everything at face value. It's just as likely that John McAfee could be going under the name Fluffy Ballbag than a 12-year-old girl going by the name John McAfee. I mean, that's the simple fact. We need to get used to that in the modern world. The fact that you cannot trust anything that you see. I think the next generation is already used to that. Those between the age of, let's say, 8 and 16, so they can spot a scam a mile off. Other generations need to get used to doing this sort of stuff. Horrible thing is, so many people are going to get ripped off in the next few years. Eventually what will happen is these companies, when they start hemorrhaging, like Facebook are already hemorrhaging accounts, because those apparently 1.5 to 2 billion accounts that Facebook have, we all know that at least half of those are fake accounts. And yet they're boasting about them as if they're real. The share price goes up as if it's real. It's not. Facebook, in my estimate, probably has something around a maximum of 500 million accounts. Truth day. Because you know that most scammers have at least 10 accounts, right? Like for example, if you ever got into an argument with someone on YouTube, and then the scammer, they tend to have a big ego, so what they'll do is when you make a complete fool of them, they'll come back and they'll start to team up on you as if they've got a lot of people who are against you, but they're writing in the same way. They give little tails that show it's the same person. That's because they already have ready-made 50 accounts with VPN and all that sort of stuff, right? Of course, YouTube can detect that sort of stuff. And trace that, even if someone's bouncing off a proxy server, that it's the same person. Are they going to do it for you? Are they? Fuck no. Because why? Scammers make them money. All those millions that rip off you, even if they just make 5% of the billions of dollars, they're still making a lot of money off of the theft and fraud, from good people. So I just wanted to highlight that one. There was a thing on the news the other day. I was watching a thing on here about Instagram, how they do nothing to prevent scammers. Therefore, what it's like doing, it's like being in a country where prostitution's legal and opening a brothel and saying, but we don't advocate prostitution, or like, I can give a million examples, but you know what I'm getting at. Their platform is there for one reason: to make money. It's not to allow you to communicate with your friends. They don't give a shit about you. They don't care about your communication. And that's why you need to find decentralized platforms, especially those that don't look to actually, because of the nature of decentralization and distributed systems, they can't really monetize it and make stupid amounts of money out of it without making a token that represents that. Well, I suppose there's monetization ways, but I can't see some of these companies becoming as big as, let's say, as profitable. And when I nothing wrong with being profitable, but if you don't deserve to be profitable, like Google doesn't deserve to be as profitable as it is. Why? Because so many of the adverts on Google, if you type something in, if you get a sponsored ad, 9 times out of 10, those ads are, no, not 9 times out of 10, probably half the time, those are a scam or something that's not good for you. And that's why it has to sell it. In the modern world, you don't need salesmen. Salesmen are actually defunct. They're completely obsolete, and yet we still have them because you need to sell shit. Good stuff sells itself, but shit needs to be sold. So, yeah. YouTube, one of the worst offenders. Google, a really bad offender too. As I say, a lot of the sponsored links you get, you know it's going to be leading you to shit if it's a sponsored link. Well, what, do Google not vet the people who advertise on their platform? I would say whether they do or they don't really care. The only time they'll ever change it is when there's enough noise made and then it becomes a PR stunt to do something about it. So for example, a while ago, Facebook had an issue with privacy, and then they do a knee-jerk reaction saying, oh, we're doing this, this and that, we care about your privacy. He released a video, says he's all sorry, right? People should be getting sick of apologies from these large corporates. These large corporates that make billion-dollar profits, yet they can only seem to employ about 200 people. What's wrong with that? And Coca-Cola's in that same basket, by the way. I used to live near the head office there in Atlanta. So my dad used to work for them too. It has a few hundred employees, or I think it's a couple of thousand employees around the world. But you know, look at the amount of money they bring in. This is what builds wealth disparity. When you have so much money, you have money to stick in the pockets of people who create the rules, the legislations, the conditions in which your business will thrive and which your competition will be cancelled out by. Anyway, that's my small thing I just wanted to say. LinkedIn have joined the club. Well, they've probably been joined it for a long time now, but I'm just pointing it out now as being something that is not a maybe, it's a definite. YouTube, Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram, and Twitter are all scam facilitators. They profit directly from people. That is why they facilitate them on their platforms. They will do everything to protect their own scammers. Ciao.